are buried deep in lies, pacts sealed in blood, the truth concealed unto death, just to exert some control. Personally, I hate rubberneckers. It's kind of like, or this book is kind of like rubbernecking. The 30-mile pileup or 30-car pileup on I-75. You want to look away, but you're drawn to the carnage. Join me as the protagonist progresses along self-discovery, and she recreates her identity, and she discovers how to go home again. Not My Family can be purchased at FeliciaBaxter.com or directly from the author. Just navigate to Facebook, look up Dale's Angels Inc., and click Buy Now for your autographed copy.
God of glory, Lord of love, hearts unfold like flowers before thee, healthy as the sun above. Now the clouds of sin and sadness drive on down away. Giver of immortal gladness, fill us with the light. Fill us with the light. Oh, fill us with the light of day.
It always cracks me up when I try to explain what I do and why I do it, and also trying to explain to different people where I am. But in me creating this podcast, I'm realizing that I'm doing a couple of my coolest things, or what I actually like to do. I really like to watch TV, and then in between during the commercial breaks, I actually record the sections of my podcast. I'm hopeful, but I think I was a bit chatty during these recordings, but I'm hopeful it'll be less than 45 minutes and closer to 30, but you never know. But I want to welcome you guys back to another episode of Tennessee Fro is Reading. Hi, I'm your host, Felicia Baxter. What's on tap for the rest of this podcast, or what are we going to be talking about for today's show? I'm going to be discussing what's in the news, the invites and the disinvites to the barbecue. It's my take on the ever-growing cast of characters for the Democratic potential candidates for the 2020 election. I'll go up to updates to my Libby's list, which is a combination of movies you have to watch, as well as books that I've added to my growing list, as well as readings from my book, Not My Family, what my daily affirmations are, but this week it's in a form of a poem from me, the Tennessee Fro, the Unpoet, and then the conclusion of the show. So hold on tight. This show is going to be interesting, and I'm hopeful that'll inspire you to dig deeper and to find out and to learn more. Thanks. So, what's going on in the news for the past week or so, or what's interesting me, and who am I inviting or disinviting from the barbecue? So, in the never ending saga that is my book, I have found out that Paperclips Magazine, Legia Publishing could be a scam. So, I was looking to possibly be represented by one of those guys, and I couldn't understand why I had, or it was almost impossible to reach him. There had been multiple Better Business complaints against that company as well as the magazine, as far as, and also dodgy reporting. So I am possibly looking up a legitimate literary magazine, but I didn't get a chance to read it before I actually recorded this part of my podcast. But I did find some interesting bites from all the other 5 newspapers that I actually read from. This one byline was in the back of the book review from the New York Times today. Victor Hugo's house that he built in the Channel Islands when he waited out. He lived in self-exile to the end of Napoleon III's reign. They have his tile as well as his pimped out sitting room where he wrote Les Miserables from this perch. There are many articles on the 50 years, because this year I believe is the 50-year anniversary of the Apollo moon landing, and they have just updated mission control at the Johnson Space Center. SpaceX deploys several dozen satellites. That goes right along with my interests on Nerd's Corner. You can go to Dale's Angels Inc. To get that launch, the YouTube video of that launch. The Washington Post, in their book section, I believe it was this week or sometime this month, that the Anne Frank, The Collected Works, was actually posted in, that actually was published this week, as well as in FT, or the Financial Times. They were also had a very lively discussion on the purpose of Facebook's Libra cryptocurrency, the nobility or the nobleness of what they want to do with that. They want to end world poverty and usury, but the 75 to 80% that people that be helped by this particular noble cryptocurrency aren't even online. You have to have internet access to be able to participate in the cryptocurrency revolution. I still find it hard, or Facebook has an identity problem because of its unwillingness to protect its users against the dumbness of the that we actually were subjected to with the Russia's tampering in our elections. And they are more interested in adding users and expanding advertisements and increasing its worth versus protecting the users that depend on its platform. And this also past week, now rolling right into the disinvites and invites to the barbecue. This section of the podcast is simply how am I making heads or tails of this the 2020 elections and all of the 25 candidates that are in the race. This past week in Miami were the first of the series of debates. Who is a more clear forerunner and who has work. Buttigieg is still my top dog. He still has an invite. I'm thinking about disinviting Joe Biden because he is going to talk himself. I honestly believe he's going to talk himself out of the nomination. Cory Booker took pot shots at Amazon and Kamala Harris. They're all basically on the bandwagon for health care for all. And now that I'm insured by the company that I'm actually working for, and it's probably one of the best commercial and private insurers in the market, and this is what I truly believe, it's going to be hard for me to give that up for an ill-advised, improperly managed government healthcare plan, because I see what is going on in Medicare and Medicaid and the crisis that they are contributing to. So I'm not going to be as apt to give up my private insurer now that I'm with a very good insurer at this time. And plus, I don't think I would actually invite her. She just seems so guarded and intense. I don't think it would be fun to be around her, or we would have a really good give and take conversation. And also, it's annoying me a lot that Booker and she are supposed to be the voices of African Americans in this country, and I'm not sure if they are or can be the trusted voices of our country. They're no Barack Obama. Once you get past the goofiness, that laid back Hawaii vibe just spoke to all of us. And he was trustworthy. His whole presence and his whole career made him perfect for the position that he held for 8 years. Not so sure about these two fools running now. But anyways, maybe that'll change. But not inviting either one of them to the big barbecue at this time. Beto, de Blasio, Sanders, Gillibrand, my neighbor, because again, there's 25 different candidates in this corral of a Democratic campaign trail. And I think with all of these different voices and with all of these different opinions, and everybody's so far out to the left, they're just confusing the issue. And it's making it very difficult for anyone to make an informed decision. So the only definite that is invited to my barbecue is Mr. Buttigieg. And again, because I like his name. The rest of them, I don't know. Alibris is a premier marketplace for books, music, and movies. Since 1998, it has connected millions of buyers with thousands of independent sellers from across the world. Read more for helpful hints on the best and get the best out of the Alibris experience. In addition, they offer benefits such as 100% satisfaction guaranteed, affordable shipping, sales promotions, gift guides, and personal recommendations, exclusive discount coupons, and more. They have awesome ideas for great gifts, thousands of eligible books, and anywhere from 10 to 80% discounted on those hard to find titles. Navigate to Alibris.com today, or navigate to Dale's Angels Inc. to find out and to upload the most up-to-date coupon code to even greater deals. And that's basically it. Now back to the podcast. So, welcome back to this section of the program. I've updated finally Libby's list with more than just what I'm reading, but also with some pretty fascinating books. 3 shows that I wanted to add is the story about Khalif Crowder, was a 16-year-old African-American boy that was wrongfully convicted of theft. Actually, he was never convicted. They actually just accused him and locked him away and tortured him in Rikers Island for 3 years. He gets out, gets support by Rosie O'Donnell and Jay-Z, and then he hangs himself from the up floor with the air conditioning cord at his mother's house. That story is tragic on so many fronts because not longer after he commits suicide, his mother dies of heart failure with infighting from his adopted father, who wouldn't even pay the bail, but he wanted a cut of the multi-million-dollar wrongful imprisonment and malpractice suit against the city. It was crazy. I watched To Have and to Hold Charlotte. It was the Queen City's recording of bouginess on so many different levels. But the most real part of that was all the changes that happen in a mature relationship. And the most real part of that, when the character, I think his name is Winslow, had a real conversation and he and his wife burst into tears. His wife, who's vegan, I don't trust vegans, but she wants to grow after all of their kids are grown, and he takes that as a possibility that he could actually lose her. He was just getting used to having no kids and enjoying his time with her because that was his second marriage. And I'm also like that first series called Pose, which was a very up close and personal look at the transgender community, and in the 80s and 90s. And I think that in itself is an amazing work of art. And I can't wait till the next season is released. And because of me watching the first 4 episodes of Queen Sugar this season, I'm actually now going back and looking. Hopefully I'll be able to binge watch the first 3 seasons and get an understanding about what makes these characters. It's pretty amazing. And I'm watching, I think this is the pilot maybe, when Ernest Bordelon actually dies, and who Charlie and Micah are. This actually, I'm wondering why I never watched this before. I was hooked that it was another Tyler Perry To Have and the Have-Nots. It was going to be along that realm, but not so much. This actually is well written, and these cast members are very, very good. I've added American Duchess. It's about the story of Consuela Vanderbilt's life, marriage, and her entrance into society, and her social climbing mother. I'm also added Fleischman is in Trouble by Taffy Brodesser Akner, a former profile writer for the New York Times, and this is her first full-fledged novel. And if you also navigate to the book review by the New York Times, she actually is interviewed on this past week's book review on the podcast, and I think it's actually pretty great to listen to, and I'm actually going to introduce that into the lineup. It's actually about the reverse. Usually I always have these books about women that are left alone as single parents. This flips it, how a middle-aged man is left by his high-flying wife to live her own life, and he's left holding the bag and holding it down with the kids, and how he has to enter into dating, and how his phone is blowing up with the 40-year-old cleavage of other people in his same predicament. I think it's actually going to be a great read. And then last but not least is My Life as a Rat by Joyce Carol Oates. She seems to, and this is what I wrote from the review, She seems to be preoccupied by male violence, racial strife, and female victimhood. This book that details how a 12-year-old female is actually disgraced when she comes up with the truth how her brothers murdered an innocent black teenager. It speaks of what everything that's going on now, and I think that's another book I'm going to have to add to the rotation too. Now, welcome back. So this part, I'm going to take time out not only to read a selection from my book, Not My Family, When Ties Should Not Bind. I wanted to discuss a little bit about the whole process of indie publishing or vanity publishing or self-publishing and the drama that surrounds that, as well as to give a glimpse into my next stop about what I plan on working or what I'm working on as the sequel for this book. And if you seem to get the feeling that I'm kind of moving back and forth, I kind of am, because I'm right in the throes of making dinner as well as getting up gathering up the supplies to do the reading. But I wanted to start out with the first part of this. The whole experience of me writing my book did start about 4 years ago when I just did it as a whim, and I bought this publishing package from a company called Author House, which is same as Author Solutions, which is the same as Ziblish Publishing. The last person, the publishing consultant, who is not an editor, who is not an agent, the last email I had from her was in 2016, and it was in 2018 that I contacted her, and I was lucky that she was still with the company. And in the publishing, or especially in the indie publishing game, being with the company for over 7 years is a bit of a fluke. These people have wide turnovers. From what I understand, the pay is crap, and you have to do or have to throw a whole bunch of shade to be able to stay in that position, but I digress. She contacted me. I gave her the manuscript after some hubbub. After I did changed and added the book cover, I had to make some modifications. After I had paid for, and they kept my book for about 3 months in the in-house so-called editing process, where I did not have a real contact during the editing process. It wasn't like they would do the review and send me back the papers. I think they just ran it through a computer program, and basically they spit back a condensed version of my book. And I noticed that there was things that were still out of place, partial chapters, things misspelled, and that was on me to catch before I actually presented the last manuscript, because I noticed that evidently I was having multiple ADD moments where I actually would I started out a chapter and then it seemed like I actually changed directions, and I did that several times in the iterations of the manuscript itself. Because the book was actually supposed to be that I was actually supposed to have been the child of an affair, but I actually flipped that, and I added the twist, as I wasn't the child of an affair, that my my actual parents or the protagonist's parents were actually married for a number of years before they actually split, and then the protagonist's mother came back to Virginia. But even through all of that, looking at just the cost of the package that I got, I realized that the easy part was actually just completing the manuscript. The hard part is protecting it from scams, from the extortion tactics of the marketing teams or these marketing individuals that just want to sell you more and more expensive and not needed services. On top of the fees you already have paid for the original, you can't trust even reputable book fair when you want to go to book fairs, because you're being steered to buy services that either you don't need or are not going to be translated into book sales. So after writing and the publishing and the copy polish, you enter into the next phase, which is the publicist. What you get is a lot of generic opportunities in these interactions. They're very scripted, but I want to see, because I think I threw them for a loop. I'm actually to a certain extent, I'm very social media savvy. I've actually done my own promotions myself, at my own expense. So I want to see how they're going to use the same tools that I've already used and translate it into sales. I'm excited that my book is on Walmart, well, soon to be on Walmart once they upload the electronic version of the book, as well as Barnes & Noble, as well as Amazon now, and also available on my book site directly from Author House. But it is just beguiling that available in all these places, but no one besides my small contingents of Facebook followers know about my book. How are we going to translate the actual publication and the presence of this book into sales? Why is everyone just so lackadaisical about that? I have this video that they sent me, and I realized that the downtown scene was actually probably somewhere in Nigeria versus good old USA, or not even downtown, somewhere in Texas. That blew my mind. Before I expend, and also I'm also a little taught that my interactions for the Manila Book Fair is money that could be well spent somewhere else. So now I'm going to have to look into either getting a refund or working with Bank of America to reverse that charge, because I have a feeling it's all a ripoff. What they want me to do is send over my book at my expense to them so they can actually possibly copy the book and then sell it on the market over there in the Philippines. No, I don't think so. I can't do that, and I will not do that. And I've come to find out with buyer beware or services beware from the Independent Authors Association that all of these scams, they resonate. The people that I'm talking to and the services and what I've been put through resonates by what's already out there on social media. And I wish definitely before I spend another dime, there's a lot of things that I actually have access to for free, that I can actually do an amazing job myself, that I don't have to depend on the non-services offered by the current publisher. I think I'll still get a book award. I'm hopeful, if not with this book, but with either the sequel. And I should be able to make a little bit of cash on top of it. I mean, why not? And then what I also found out is about this service called Bookreads. Goodreads is offered by, I think, one of the it's either Simon and Schuster or Penguin, where over 2 billion, that's right, 2 billion titles are available. They also have a service for authors in which you can claim your own book, keep track of all of your books, and interact and network and do your own reviews, etc. And again, I found out about this as a, oh yeah, by the way kind of moment when I was reading about book fair scams and some other things. And so I created and claimed my book through that service. And probably going forward, I'm going to be doing my reviews and updating that particular profile more so than LinkedIn, because basically Goodreads is the LinkedIn for authors, and it's all free. But I don't recall in any of my interactions with Author House that being the case, or if there actually is this publicist had even recommended that being one of the things that I should actually focus on. They're gonna, I hope they're not gonna waste my time in teaching me the ins and outs of Twitter and Facebook, because there's so many other platforms that are of assistance to public authors at this time. You know, I'm learning while I'm creating my art, but the shade is for real, and you just have to be up on your game. Anybody that doesn't help you focus on the business part, which is sales, you have to be wary of. Anytime any service has to come with a price tag, because I do understand you get what you pay for, and you can't get things for free, but there are a lot of services out there for free. But if you are only interested in selling me more services and not how I can take advantage of all of these free opportunities, you're all suspect. They're just like the recruiters of the world. They just need a body to pay for things. They don't want to make sure that that person gets all the tools that they need to have a successful project. And that's actually just absolutely annoying. So I'm actually just going to read. I don't think I've read from this part of the book because I plan on reading like basically an update on the second part. I think, no, because I hadn't written the introduction yet, so I'll actually basically reread that in just a second. So what is my takeaway in self-publishing? Number one, of course, finish the manuscript. Once the manuscript is prepared, navigating to the Independent Authors Association, becoming very well adept at the scams that are going on and predatory publishing that is going on, and that's rampant. Hiring an editor, or they're not for free, but some of the best editorial services are also listed on that site. Getting a real book designer or book cover designer, especially for paperback as well as the book jacket for a hardback. Creating buzz about your book even before it's published by going on social media through Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and even WordPress. Mentioning it on your own blog if you actually have one. And then publishing using some of the publishing platforms, and one of the ones that I'm going to be looking into a little bit more closely is Kindle Unlimited, because you can actually, once you have an edited copy of your book and a great jacket design or cover design, you can actually be published, and within 24 hours, ISBN number and everything. And just being informed, interacting with other authors, being an active part of the Goodreads community is a way to not only get some credibility, but also just to interact with others practicing their own craft and getting ideas. And also heads up of what to look out for and who to be wary of. So now on to the reading. I'm wondering if I actually truly did do this introduction or the first chapter in my book previously, but I'm going to go and do it again because I've since written the introduction to my second project, but this is from Not My Family, When Ties Should Not Bind, a work of fiction by me. And it's the first chapter entitled Square Peg in a Box of Round Nuts. I can't remember if it was an author or some other scholar who once related that the use of expletives is unimaginable and denotes a limited vocabulary. Still, I never even had words to describe this experience, and I went through all of it. I apologize for the expletives in the upcoming pages, but I hope to relate my own incredulity and then healing. And I hope the reader will come to terms with his or her own reality. The following is an account of my journey through the rediscovery of self, the true meaning of family, and a realization that we all deserve to be loved. I cannot and will not guarantee that you will ask yourself before the end, what the hell? And why hasn't she gone postal? No, I haven't gone postal, and I'm still living my life out loud and not in a state or federal correctional facility. I never quite fit anywhere. I grew up on the East Coast and then moved to the West Coast for work and school and felt completely disconnected from everyone. A way to stay connected was through Facebook. I took a position in Savannah, Georgia for an insurance company that had offices in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and Charlotte, North Carolina. I continued to move around a lot and began to rely more and more on social media to stay connected to everyone, but from a safe distance. During this transitional time, I went home for what I thought was my great aunt's funeral. I did a fast head count at the funeral and realized that there were fewer than 20 members of a vast family who were living, and the few who were left were on their last leg. In a few short years, my family would die out, or so I thought. A distant cousin who had been reaching out to several family members through Facebook. He discussed his experience on Ancestry.com, and he published a few of the connections on his page. I simply piggybacked on the work he had started. As I added connections and checked leaves, I discovered early deaths from heart disease, homicide, and suicide. I was introduced to female and male philanderers, murderers, schizophrenics, and pedophiles. I thought, how am I going to survive this lineage? What kind of family is this? I come from pretty messed up stock. Was I always destined to fail or struggle, or could a sister get a break? I started to explore the meaning of family. My family was a family of secrets, even if the truth was liberating. There's a propagation of the unbelievable where love is met with jealousy, hurt, and suspicion. Recovery from the enemy from within your own family's complex dynamics to mismanage relationships. that is actually how I started that book, but I wanted to expand upon this because I think the sequel just, I'm hopeful, will explain that the dysfunction did not start with my generation. It had been previously, but the protagonist family was even more dysfunctional than she had even thought. Because the protagonist in the second iteration, and I'm still thinking about there may be a third in there somewhere, is met by the realization that her own mother and grandmother are also tragic heroes in the saga of this family, and who she thought was her grandmother really wasn't, but she was tragically abused by her family that the author, alluded to in the first book, but that this mother is the product of a relationship that explained why she was treated the way she was treated. The intro to what I'm loosely calling the remake of, or the rediscovery of Franny Purcell, or the making of Franny Purcell, maybe the unmaking of Franny Purcell, I don't know. But anyways, the introduction starts like this. Never in my 40 some odd years did I ever think I would be in a different place or a completely different person. When I would discover, almost by a fluke, my actual biological family, I would actually discover my biological family and my extensive paternal side of the family. I would start getting recognized for my blog and podcast hosted by my brother and half siblings. Me and my grandmother would become Instagram influencers because of our pastry and porcelain posts. My Aunt Myrtle's son, Craig, and her daughters, Rosemary and Junebug, don't even get me started on that nickname, would become my main trolls online. The Purcell family contributions to my Lily White College would lead to two seats on the board of directors. I would be then not only trolled by fake friends, but so-called well-wishers. I would be able to leave my work as an editor for the online healthcare magazine to become the site administrator for Family Affairs, the one-stop shopping showcasing all of the Purcell family businesses, with my not sister Angela steering the life coach and credit repair arm. Then there would be another wave of trolling, and it would come after the reveal of my mother, Darlene's true origins. I would also become a business partner for my Uncle Ninny's money laundering for marijuana dispensaries across the country. Yeah, that's right. He actually would be able to clean the scent of marijuana from the money from these dispensaries. Girl, I can't make this shit up. But oh girl, there's so much ish to talk about. So in the words of Iyanla Van Zandt, buckle up, buttercup, because it's about to get real. And that is just the beginning of some of the hopeful 200 and some odd pages that I'm going to write on my second installment of the family Purcell and the making or the unmaking of Franny Purcell, the protagonist of the first book. And I hope that you will continue to follow me to find out what happens next, because as you may know, Maria Butler actually is Franny Purcell. And I think in this introductive chapter, I'm going to have to expand upon the decision to move away from the Maria Butler to Franny and all that entailed. And it is going to be a wild ride. I can feel it coming on. So, welcome back to the section of my daily affirmations and I'm just going to read from a little ditty that I actually put down today. It's called Where's Your Light? And it's by me, Tennessee Fro, the Unpoet. Light is converted to energy and then for photosynthesis. Light shows your path home to redemption, to love. Light shows you the dirt that must be swept away or possibly home for a new plant. Light allows you to see the keys or the page to write your truth. Light doesn't allow you to hide. Light reveals hurt. Light reveals truth. Light can show healing. Light can be healing. Where is your light exactly? So what will you do while it's light? It's on you, so choose. And that brings us to the end of this episode of Tennessee Fro is Reading. Please join me next time when I basically surf through this world of self-publishing, look for things that I should be woke about, for people that I should have canceled but I haven't and won't. And also what's going on with my next project. Until then, please follow me on Goodreads as well as Facebook and on Twitter. Navigate to FeliciaBaxter.com and check out my current project and order it. Please order it, as well as become one of my patrons on Podbean, that I can continue to give you this great content and think of other things to be entertaining. Because you give me the money, give me the idea, I'll just roll with it. And again, my podcast is now available on both Podbean in iTunes as well as Spotify. And my book can not only be found at FeliciaBaxter.com, but also on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and hopefully in the next week, Walmart.com. Until next time, have a great read and let me know. And be kind, be present. Just don't be stupid. Have a great week.